From the OU TV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics. Proudly combating the thought police since 2016, here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. Donald Trump loves Twitter. We all know that. And we also know he hates his critics, doesn't even want to hear them. In fact, Donald Trump thought to himself, what if there was a world where I could use my favorite social media platform, Twitter, and not have to hear my critics, block them? Well, it turns out you can't, because a federal appeals court today said, nah, brah, you can't block your critics from your Twitter feed. The decision came from a New York-based appeals court, and it upholds an earlier ruling that Trump violated the First Amendment when he blocked individual users who were critical of the president or his policies. Public officials who take to social media for official government business are prohibited from excluding people from an otherwise open online dialogue because they express views which happen to be different than that official. The official disagrees with them. Now, this is what we call the First Amendment, baby. It's called viewpoint discrimination. The comment section on Trump's Twitter feed is no different from a traditional town hall meeting, and citizens must be allowed to respond directly to government officials and engage in public policy debates. Trump argued that @the real Donald Trump is a personal account, not a government account. Yeah, right. When the news of the day, public policy, international relations, and cabinet appointments all come to the public via tweet from Mr. Trump, it's pretty hard for anyone to believe that this is a personal, non-government Twitter account. The judges acknowledged the role social media plays in modern public policy discussion. And here's a quote. The irony in all of this is that we write at a time in history of this nation when the conduct of our government and its officials is subject to wide open, robust debate. This debate encompasses an extraordinarily broad range of ideas and viewpoints and generates a level of passion and intensity to the likes of which have been rarely seen. This debate, as uncomfortable and as unpleasant as it frequently may be, is nonetheless a good thing. This week, the CBO said that a $15 minimum wage is good policy for America. The CBO is also known as the Congressional Budget Office. It's a nonpartisan arbiter of the impacts of federal legislation. Now, raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour would increase the wages of 27 million Americans and lift 1.3 million Americans out of poverty. And that would happen by the year 2025. The report is timely because the House Democrats are on the verge of bringing a minimum wage raise to the floor for a vote. Currently, the minimum wage is $7.25, which is simply horrifying. The federal increase would happen in stages over the next 5 years. Now, the federal government has fallen way behind most states. In fact, 29 states and the District of Columbia now have a minimum wage that's higher than the federal minimum. Now, who's the son of a bitch that's been defending the $7.25 minimum wage? Well, none other than Labor Secretary Alex Acosta. Wait a second. Isn't that name familiar? Where else have I been hearing that name today? Oh, yeah. He's on the hot seat for his role as a former federal prosecutor in arranging a wrist slap plea for a deal in 2008 for the the person accused of sex trafficking, Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know if you've heard of that. Well, back in 2008, he had gotten in trouble for some bad behavior, and he got a wrist slap deal. Oh yeah, so Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, his days in office might simply be numbered. Victims' rights advocates and many other Democrats are calling for him to be fired. The CBO's latest analysis makes it clear that the benefits of a $15 minimum wage would heavily outweigh the downside. The ratio of those who would experience higher wage versus those who would lose their jobs or hours is about 21 to 1. So when we do the math here, 27.3 million people would be winners in this situation, and I feel for it, there's 1.3 million people who would be losers. But the net gain for all workers, well, it's $44 billion. So get it done, America, and fire this asshole. Drama has broken out between President Trump, surprise there, and who else? Spin the wheel of the many people that there could be drama with. Well, it lands on UK Prime Minister. Over the past several days, today, Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt spoke out and said that Donald Trump has been disrespectful towards the Prime Minister. His comments come after President Trump called Sir Kim Darak, the UK ambassador to the US, a very stupid guy. A very stupid guy. Food fight, food fight. Yeah. But wait, isn't the UK supposed to be one of our closest allies? Why is Trump super in love with Kim Jong-un, but stinking up the relationship with the UK? What happened? On Sunday, emails revealed the ambassador Sir Kim Darak, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, I'm not entirely sure, but he called the Trump administration clumsy and inept. Ooh, sick burn. The confidential emails from the UK's ambassador went on to include a string of criticisms of Mr. Trump himself and his administration, and said that the White House was uniquely dysfunctional and divided under his presidency. He also questioned whether the White House will ever look competent, and called the handling of Iran incoherent and chaotic. He also warned that the U.S. president should not be written off, so Trump is pretty butthurt about these insults being hurled at him. What do we really expect Trump to do? Ignore it? No way! He did what he loves to do, and he lashed out on Twitter. The wacky ambassador that the UK foisted upon the United States is not something or someone we are thrilled with. A very stupid guy. I don't know the ambassador, but have been told he's a pompous fool. Tell him now the USA is the best, by far. Now, Jeremy Hunt, the guy who stood up to Trump today on Twitter, is running for Prime Minister against Boris Johnson. However, this new Prime Minister will not be selected through public vote or general election. Instead, the new leader of the nation will be chosen by their conservative MP peers through a process involving several votes at a non-specific time. A self-selecting group of 160,000 people, just 0.2% of the electorate, will choose the next leader for a country of nearly 67 million people. These 160,000 members of the Conservative Party started receiving their ballot papers this past weekend. I'm glad that that's not how we do our elections, aren't you?